This is the Adoption is Love podcast. Real stories from real birth moms who've lived it, loved through it, and grown stronger because of it.
That's like the really hardest part about it all. My job of taking care of him for 9 months was done, and now he's not mine. I had to mourn being a mom and not just the birth mom.
Today we're sitting down with Marilyn. At just 18, she found herself pregnant, scared, and trying to figure out what her future would look like. She shares the heartbreak and the strength it took to walk this road, and the moment she realized she wasn't just making a choice, she was creating a future. Joining her is her former adoption specialist, now adoptive parent supervisor at Deaconess Pregnancy and Adoption, Catherine Cheek.
Marilyn, can you share a little bit about your life and circumstances when you found out you were pregnant?
When I first found out I was pregnant, I was only 18, and I had just moved in with this boy that I was talking to. And 2 weeks later, I get the positive pregnancy test. And being 18, I'm just hoping for the best. I felt like my fairy tale was starting. As naive as I was back then, I thought, I guess I am going to be a mom. I'm going to have a baby. I didn't think about anything else. I didn't really have much support around me. And I just moved back to Oklahoma City, and I had a bad childhood. So I was still kind of learning to be a very new adult. And I didn't even have my driver's license. I didn't have a car. I had just looked into becoming a substitute teacher to bring in some sort of money. And other than that, I was by myself with this boy, and that's all I knew.
What were some of the emotions you were experiencing that first week after you found out you were pregnant?
Sickness? I'm just kidding. Like I said, I thought everything was going to be perfect in the movies, and this was just the start of that.
Meaning with the guy that you were living with?
Yes.
That you guys were going to create a family.
A family. And yeah, we went to the recruiter because he was going to join the Air Force. Everything was almost fast forwarding and seemed more real the more time went by. Excitement and nervousness for something brand new in my life. And I don't know, there were too many emotions all at once. So just going day by day.
So as you walked through your pregnancy, what changed to lead you to look at other options?
Surprisingly, this relationship did not go very well. 18-year-olds aren't really prepared for life and all of the big changes that just becoming adults and becoming new parents takes. I think I was the only one that really cared that I was pregnant, that I had a baby growing, and that was going to change my life. I think it probably scared him, and he actually went off and hurt me. So it started making me realize that what I thought was going to happen wasn't going to happen. The fairy tale, the family that I thought I was creating. I remember trying to think, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to be a single mom now? Because that's all I was really taught. That's all there is to be a mom. You have a baby and you take care of it. That's all that there really is. I grew up in a very strict Christian household. My dad was a pastor. And so I grew up with those traditional values that abortion is murder. It's completely wrong. That's not even an option. I did believe that. And it's 3 or 4 months. So I was past already the opportunity for an abortion. I didn't even know what that entailed. All I knew was that it just did not feel right at the time. That wasn't even an option for me. But I was starting to feel like being a single mom was also not an option for me. But what could I do? I knew adoption was a word, was a thing. But all I knew was that adoption was how you see on Lifetime. You have this baby, they take it away, you're forgotten, you're assumed that you did this for yourself or you gave a baby away. And I didn't want that either. But then I had remembered this place that came to my church way back when in the youth group. So I called and made an appointment. I wanted to know what else I could do.
How did Deaconess support you in the beginning?
Person that I had an appointment with, her name was Catherine. She took me to her little office, sat me down, and gave me like this folder. And it had all the info of what adoption is, but also she talked to me about what parenting would look like. I was able to talk to somebody that really felt like she cared about me and not just give me your baby. It helped a lot to have a little person to talk to in front of me, and I could ask all the questions I needed. And I learned that there was a thing called an open adoption. Like, what is that? This is too good to be true. What do you mean open adoption? Like we share custody? But that's not what it was. Sorry. I'm super emotional all the time, so I'm kind of crying.
Emotions are okay.
But yeah, so just having someone to talk to, someone that knew what I needed to know. Overall, I needed somebody in my corner.
So did you have support from family and friends as you started thinking about an adoption plan?
No, my family and I's relationship was pretty toxic at the time, just because I was only 18, so I was still dealing with all of the trauma that I had gone through, and I didn't really want any of them involved because I didn't trust them. But we are healing now. But friends, I had one best friend, and she also only knew what I knew before, that adoption was this super taboo and dark and negative thing. And so when I got to talk to her and explain to her how it works, what it's doing, and why I decided to place my son for adoption, she actually understood and agreed with me and was my support throughout the entire thing. Like, she was there in the hospital. The person responsible for his other half of his DNA was not supportive at all. I eventually left the apartment that we shared and had support through Deaconess to find a better home for me while I was pregnant, a more supportive home. I didn't really have money, I didn't have a car, I didn't have a driver's license. I had nothing to my name, really, other than my clothes.
So after you decided adoption would be in the best interest of your baby, you went through choosing a family. What was that like?
So back then, social media was just starting. So we were still kind of in the ages of physical photos. But when I went in to choose a family, Catherine brought me these packets of answers and questions. And these potential families wrote out their answers. And I read through like these questions about how they parent, what their values are, what they intend to incorporate in their family, and the nitty and gritty stuff. And at the time, it was kind of scary. It was a heavy thing. And I wanted just the best for my baby. Like, if I cannot give him the best, then I want to find him the best. And these were just packets. Like, there was no pictures yet. All I could go off of was questions and answers. And at first, I found every little tiny thing in every little packet that I did not like, just so I could say no to all of them. I didn't want to choose anybody just yet because I was scared. And in my eyes, I'm like, oh, nobody's good enough for him. But Catherine encouraged me to go back through and write some pros and cons about ones that stood out to me. And there was one family that there was only one con. I don't even remember what it was. It was so little. But that one I remembered. What stuck out was I could tell that the answers were written by the father. I don't know how I could tell, but I could just tell. And that was like incredibly important to me. Having a father for this baby was like important. Like, I wanted a family. I wanted him to have a family and not just a single mom, not just a single dad. I wanted him to have both parents that wanted him. And so I decided on this family in particular. And then that's when Catherine busted out the homemade scrapbooks. By then were a huge thing. And I got to see what these people look like. And they had a little boy who was 10, and they had been trying since he was 2 years old. I think that was the con, was that they had a kid, and I wanted a family that didn't have another kid. But today, I'm really glad that they had him first. But anyway, looked at the scrapbook, got to see their activities, what they looked like, what they did. They vacationed in Key West. Like, it was cute. And then I did notice that they too were short. And so I thought, perfect, my baby is going to fit right in. Except now that he's way over 6 foot tall and I'm 5 foot.
So after you chose them, did you get to meet them?
So after I chose them, we did a phone call. It ended up being like a 3-way phone call because they were both at work. We called them from the agency's office, and I told them that I chose them as his parents, and I could hear both of them start to kind of cry. And that just solidified everything. And I remember the baby like moving inside of me. And I was like, well, dang it. It's meant to be. And so after the phone call, we made the date to meet at the adoption agency, and I met them actually, and they brought in flowers for me. I had made, and remember, I'm 19, but I had made the little boy a cookie cake that said Big Brother because I was super excited for him to finally be a brother. And I think I was 6 or 7 months pregnant. 7 months pregnant when I chose them. Almost done. But yeah, so I met them, and then I invited them to the rest of my doctor's appointments that they could make. And they ended up going to those, and they got to hear his heartbeat and everything. And that was like really cool for the brother to hear his heartbeat and know that it was real. He was inside of me, growing. So yeah, so we met before I had him. Because I had that luxury that I chose this option, kind of early on in the middle of my pregnancy, that I had this time to give to them.
Take us through the hospital experience.
Okay, so I had a scheduled induction. So I hadn't gone into labor just yet. Got in and got induced as soon as we were on the way to the hospital. Gave the parents a call, and they actually were at the hospital or around the hospital the entire time. The dad kind of stuck to the waiting room, but the mom was by my side and they were involved. The hospital I gave birth at no longer exists, but they knew of my situation and what was going on, and no one judged me. Everyone seemed to care about me. I am grateful for the staff that I had. They even put the parents up in the overflow room so that they could stay the night. I ended up giving birth by emergency C-section about 14 hours later, and they end up having to put me to sleep, and so I couldn't even hold the baby, really. I didn't remember anything that night, and he ended up being with the parents in the overflow room overnight the first 2 nights. But when they weren't sleeping, everybody was in my room, and everybody cared about how I was feeling. Even the parents, they cared about me almost more than the baby at that time, which I really appreciated. It felt really nice. They gave me time with him the last night because the next day we were all leaving, and I couldn't move very well, but I could move way better the last night. And so I had him in the room. I didn't sleep at all. It was weird. I was a mom, but I wasn't a mom. I wrote a note to him to read when he turned 18, or whenever the parents want to give it to him, since we are open. But I had hoped when he turned 18 and was an adult. And I just held him. I spent time with him. I changed his diaper. I just pretended to be a mom the last night. And then I wanted to go for a little walk in the hallway and called the mom, and the mom and I actually walked and I think bonded on our little walk, pushing the baby around. I joked and was like, let's just live at the hospital the rest of our life. The time that I was afraid of was coming, and that was the next day. And the next day we got discharged. We walked in the hospital, baby in the carrier next to me that the nurse was holding. It was a really big blur at that moment because I was crying and I was emotional and sad, but we walked out of the hospital side by side, and then watching him be put in their van and driving away broke me down. That's really hardest part about it all. My job of taking care of him for 9 months was done, and now he's not mine. And I had to mourn what I thought before I even thought about adoption. I had to mourn being a mom, and not just the birth mom, but I knew that it was about him. It wasn't about me at all. I knew that he didn't ask to be here. He didn't ask to exist. And it was my job as a parent, as a mom, to put his needs way above mine, 100%. And that's what I did by choosing adoption, by
choosing a family for him to take care of, to entrusting him with them. But the hospital was mainly a good experience for me, and I'm grateful for what I did have. It was just leaving the hospital was the hardest part.
Thank you for sharing that, Marilyn. We're just so thankful for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Adoption is Love podcast, brought to you by Deaconess Pregnancy and Adoption. If you're curious about open adoption or just need someone to talk to, an adoption specialist is available at adoptionis.love.